Hilchis Malveh V'Loveh, Perek Achadasir. Now we just finished the halachas of Ribis, which were from Perek Daled till Perek Yud, 7 prokim of Hilchis Ribis. Before that, the Rambam spoke about the halachas of a mashkin, when you could take a mashkin, when you cannot take a mashkin, and how you take the mashkin, if you're not allowed to go into the person's house, and which items you're not allowed to take as a mashkin, and certain items you have to return. The various dinim of Hilchis Mashkin. And before that, the Rambam discussed the dinim of that there's a mitzvah to lend. If someone needs money, there's a chiyuv to lend. And also Lisiyah L'Kanesha, that if you lend him money and you know that he doesn't have the money, so there's Lisiyah L'Kanesha, you're not allowed to month from him and make him feel uncomfortable because you know he doesn't have the money. Now the Rambam is going to discuss the dinim. We know there was a milva. So the question is, when is the loy v'nema to say paraiti? So there could be a metzias of a milva balpeh, and there's a metzias of a milva b'shtar. So the general din is that malvus chaver be'edim ain't tzarich l'peir be'edim. That's the halacha. That if someone lent you money, even though there's edim that he lent you money, but that doesn't mean you owe him the money right now. He lent you money, but taka you're tiny paraiti. Masha'enkin by a milva b'shtar over there, if that person has a shtar that it says you owe him money, so then you're not nema to tiny paraiti. That's the halachas we're going to learn about. Perek achados. Hamalve is chavere b'fnei edim. Someone lent someone money b'fnei edim. Sha'amar le'edim. Heyu alai edim shani chayiv l'zemana. Stam azay to be moided that he owes someone money in front of edim is not really considered edah, because you always say he was talking narishkeit. B'shtat tanibach. Masha'enkin, if he says clearly Heyu alai edim shani chayiv l'zemana, eyatim edim shani chayiv l'zemana, so that's considered a proper edah. Shani chayiv l'zemana. Zuhi anikras milva alpeh. This is called a milva alpeh. We know there's a milva. There's edim that there was a milva, but there's no shtar. The malva doesn't have a shtar. That zuhi anikras milva alpeh. Ve'eni tzarich lepara be'edim. The person that has a milva alpeh doesn't have an obligation lepara be'edim. Lefichach im toar nacharkach v'amar paraiti nish beheses v'nifter. Since there's eni tzarich lepara be'edim, so therefore he has an emonus l'taina paraiti, and if he tainas paraiti, so he's nish beheses v'nifter. Now we'll get back to this lashon in a minute. Aval hamalvus chaver b'shtar over here is tzarich l'para be'edim. Lefichach in toan v'amar paraiti shter zeh eini neman. Ela emrim le'ehavi edim e'ameid v'shalom l'chev. So the Rambam is saying a milva alpeh is ein tzarich l'para be'edim, and therefore he's nema to say paraiti. Mashenken a milva b'shtar is tzarich l'para be'edim, and therefore he's eini nema to say paraiti. Now the achrein is that the seder should be fakert. There's a milva b'shtar, since the person has a shtar, so you're not neman to say paraiti. So therefore, the only way to be neman to say paraiti is tzarich l'para be'edim. Mashenken a milva alpeh, since he doesn't have a shtar, so you are neman to taina paraiti. And since you're neman to taina paraiti, so therefore there's no need l'para be'edim. So in other words, it would be fakert. The fact that you don't have to l'para be'edim is as a result of the fact that you're neman to say paraiti. And the lashon Ram is fakert. The lashon Ram is the milva alpeh is any tzarich l'para be'edim, and therefore is neman to say paraiti. Not that any tzarich l'para be'edim because he's neman to say paraiti. Fakert. He's any tzarich l'para be'edim, and therefore he's neman to say paraiti. And milva b'shtar is neman is tzarich l'para be'edim, and therefore he's not neman to say paraiti. L'chura to say this should be fakert. So on that the achreinim hamadayik pshat is azay. But the shaila is, what's the opmach of the milva? What's the opmach of the milva? So by a milva alpeh, the pashtus of the opmach is that he could pay me. He doesn't have to pay me b'fnei edim. Since that's the pashtus of the opmach, so therefore ain't it tzarich l'para be'edim. In other words, that wasn't part of the deal that tzarich l'para be'edim, and therefore since that wasn't part of the deal, so we don't. So memelas, therefore he's never to say paraiti. Masha'enkin by a milva b'shtar fakert. The part of the deal was that he's tzarich l'para be'edim, and since that's the deal of the shtar. In other words, it's not only since he has the shtar. Kilu that l'chatchila, since we're making a shtar, so it's kilu. It's self-understood that tzarich l'para be'edim, and therefore since tzarich l'para be'edim, so therefore he's not nema to say paraiti. That would be the havanas hadvarim. Shaila, the Gemara seems to say in the Sheinim in Bava Basra that the yisod of a shtar that you're not nema to say paraiti is because shtar chibiyadi my boy. So in other words, when a person comes along with a shtar and the loiv is tiny paraiti, so the tiny is shtar chibiyadi my boy. If you're paraiti, why does the malva have the shtar? And l'chura, that's the reason why the loiva is not nema to say paraiti. It's that shtar chibiyadi my boy. And the Rambam seems to be saying not like that. The Rambam seems to be saying that the reason why he's not nema to say paraiti is because tzarich l'para be'edim, and therefore is ein nema l'paraiti. So that's tzarich beer a little bit. Now, l'peil, later on we're going to learn that if a person tells a person, Al tifre'eni ela be'edim, so he's not able to say paraiti without edim. If he tells him clearly, Al tifre'eni ela be'edim, he has to bring edim. However, if he tainas, I paraiti b'fnei edim, to paraiti b'fnei edim, v'holcholem l'mdinas hayam, so then, even though the Malveh said Al Tefreini El Be'edim, he's naman to say that Paraiti Le'edim V'fnei Edim V'holchalem Dinasayam. In other words, it's not the pshat that I'm giving you a halva, and the deal of the halva is that you're not going to have nemonis to say Paraiti. If that's the deal of the halva, that you don't have nemonis to say Paraiti, that's what I'm saying. Al Tefreini El Be'edim, you have to bring Edim, because you don't have an amonis to say paraiti, so how could he come along and say paraiti b'fnei pleini u'pleini v'olchalem dinasayam? The deal was that he doesn't have an amonis to say paraiti. So we see from here that the fact that he told him al tifreini el be'edim is not a hechrich that he has to go and bring the edim. As long as he tainas that he was paraiti b'fnei edim, so memeli is naman. So if we're going to go back and say, well, a shtar is also the same idea. A shtar is also the idea that I said al tifreini el be'edim. But l'chura, just like if you said al tifreini el be'edim, so l'churi he's nema to say paraiti b'fnei edim v'holchem dinas hayam. So l'churi over here should also be nema. So that's what the Chazin Yecheskel tainas, that's pshat. That on one hand I told you al tifreini el be'edim, but on the so l'churi al tifreini el be'edim means you have to pay him b'fnei edim. But just like by a milva al peh, if you'd say al tifreini el be'edim, you would be nema to say paraiti b'fnei pleini v'holchem dinas hayam. So why by a milva b'shtar you're not nema? So by a milva b'shtar, so you have to add this factor of sharcha b'yadi, my boy, and that takes away the taina paraiti b'fnei pleini v'olchalom dinas hayam, and therefore you're not naman. So do you say that dvarim is ki'ilu I told you al tifreini el be'edim? But a regular milva peh, even though I said al tifreini el be'edim, I'm naman to say paraiti b'fnei pleini v'olchalom dinas hayam. But she'enkim by milva b'shtar, I'm not naman. But if lechatchila there wouldn't have been a din that it's ki'ilu, that it's a chiyuv of the nekud of the din is that the fact that I have a milva and the fact that you have a taining, l'chur shtarcha b'yadi, my boy, so how you talking? In other words, I have a star, so l'chur, that's not enough to say that you have to pay me. Shtarcha b'yadi, my boy, is not enough of a taina to create a chiyuv tashlum. Chiyuv tashlum comes because I said al tifreini el be'edim. However, normally, even though I said al tifreini el be'edim, if you taina it paraita b'fnei pleini v'holchem dinas hayam yinaman. But over here, since I said al tifreini el be'edim and lepel, this taina that you're taining is not really a good taina because shtarcha b'yadi, my boy. So therefore, you have to pay. So you don't have to pay only because of the fact of shtarcha b'yadi, my boy. It's together with the factor that the shtar is ki'ilu you said al tifreini el be'edim. It needs further asbara, but that's the high. That's clear in Rambam that it starts with tzarech lepari be'edim, therefore he's not naman, and ain't tzarech lepari be'edim, and therefore he is naman. Yeah, lefichach. Ha'ema le'edim, hayu le'edim, shani chayiv le'zemona, is ain't koisvin edusan v'nesn le'malva. Knows the edim can go ahead and write the shtar to the mal, make this milva al peh into a milva b'shtar, shel yachziru edus al peh, milva b'shtar. Knows the gather of edus al peh is a different gather than milva al shtar. There's a milva al peh has a koyach that it's not saying he's yochel leparish le'bedim. Masha'enkin a milva b'shtar is any yochel leparish be'edim. If the edim are going to go ahead and write down this edus and make a shtar from it, so basically they're taking a milva al peh, which the chiyuv of the leva is only a milva al peh dika chiyuv, which he could pay shalei b'fnei edim, and you're making it into a milva b'shtar dika chiyuv. Achiyemel em leva, unless the leva told him clearly, kisvu shtar v'chismu be'utnulei. So in order for Adam to write the shtar, even though they know about the halva, they know about the haidah, but in order to write a shtar, we need that the loiver should tell them clearly, kisvu shtar v'chismu be'utnulei. V'afal pish amalek, and even if they clearly said there was a hidah b'fnei Adam, and then he said to the Adam, kisvu shtar v'chismu utnulei. So tzrichen lihimalach be'achas shechosmu b'shtar. Even after they told him chismu, so again they have to go lehimolah. But the Rebbe argues on this prat. Says no, once he said to him kismu v'chismu, they don't have to go lehimolah. But lepel, the Rambam was saying that stam as a edim that saw halva bal peh, or there was a hidah bal peh. So that's you can't write a shtar. Masha'en came if he told him clearly kismu v'chismu tnulei. So then they could write a shtar, but only before they write the star, before they actually give him the star, they have to ask him, after they actually wrote the star and they signed on the star, they have to ask him again, do you want me to give the star? In other words, you told me to write the star, but now I'm asking you, do you want me to give the star? Now, konu miyodi shu chayiv limona. It wasn't stam hido, it was a ma'aseh kinyan. In other words, the Eidim made a ma'aseh kinyan with the Malveh, and that was mechayiv the Malveh that he owes this person money, or the person that he owes him money. So the din is, if there was a kinyan on this chayvus, is a real occasion v'nes, and then they could write the star and give the star. Aval bishuli amalem ksevu, even if he didn't tell him ksevu in the first place. We just learned that even if he told him ksevu, he has to also tell him tenu. In other words, after the chasman, he has to tell him tenu. But Mashenkin, if there was a ma'aseh kinyan, they don't even have to say ksevu, shestam kinyan l'ksiv, and therefore ve'enan tzrichen li'malveh, they don't have to go ahead and ask him again whether or not he's interested. Halacha base. Now, in order for a star to have a din star, there has to be Eidim on the star. Either the Eidim are signed on the star, or there are Eidim that saw the Mesiras HaStar. Eidim Mesira, that's also as a din of a star. But if you have a star without Eidim, even though the star was written b'ksav yad of the Leva, so l'chura ksav yadi, we see clearly it's a ksav yadi. Nochmer, even if there's Eidim that are signed on the ksav yad, saying that they confirm that this ksav yad is actually the Leva's ksav yad. But on the other hand, they're not confirming the Divrei HaStar. They have nothing to do with the star. They're just saying that the star, that the signature of the Leva is an authentic signature. That doesn't have a din of a star. In order for a star to have a din of a star, is a din of Eidim. That's what we learn. Halacha base. Leva shekosiv star b'ksav yodeh. V'heid ba'edim, and there's Eidim in the star, and v'nosnei l'mal v'ariz the star kosher. It's considered a star kosher. Now this heid ba'edim doesn't mean that they were made on the ksav yad of the Leva. It means that they would said Eidim. They said Eidim, so it's a regular star. It's just that it was written b'ksav yad of the Leva. Just like if it would be written b'ksav yad ha-sefer and there would be Eidim. It's a regular star. So why should we think that if it was written b'ksav yad ha-leva, it's not a regular star? So and that the answer is because since the din is that when it's written b'ksav yad ha-leva and the Leva signs on it, and Eidim signed to be mekayim the ksav yad ha-leva, so then it's not considered a good star. So we think maybe every time there's a ksav yad ha-leva and the Eidim sign on it, even though the Eidim are not really signing to confirm the ksav yad ha-leva, but they're signing on the star itself, there would be a gzeira otu when they're signing to confirm the ksav yad ha-leva. So therefore, that's the chiddush over here, that we're saying no. We're saying that that Lepel, since there's Eidim that are signed on the star itself, they're not signing on the ksav yad ha-leva, nevertheless it's considered a proper star. That's what the Alter Rebbe brings in Shulchan Aruch, in Hilchos Shtaros, Malveh V'Loveh. Halacha beis. Leva shekosiv star b'ksav yodi. A leva that wrote a star b'ksav yodi, v'heyed b'edim on the maisa star, v'nosnei l'mal bar is a star kosher. V'chein, im kosiv star, afal pi she'im b'edim, there were no edim signed on the star, v'nosnei l'mal b'fnei edim, harezo milva b'star. Aber v'hu, she'yeh ksav she'en yochel is if it has to be a star, in order of a star to have a din of a star, it has to be something which cannot be forged. You know, when you start crossing things out in the star and changing the writing, you'll be able to tell that it was changed. And the Yikru Eiseh Eidim Shnimse B'fneim, the Eidim have to read it to know what's being given over there. V'yeshman ha'ge'inim shehere, shetzorech leima le'eidim shmosu b'fneim, chismu v'hi'idu shnimse b'fneichem. So in other words, that the Eidim Masira have to actually sign something. In other words, they're not signing the original star, they could be signing a star to say that they saw the Masira of the star. And the reason the Maggid Mishnah says is because or else the star is ein l'kel. In order for a star to have a kel, it has to be Eidim that's signed on the star. The fact that the Eidim saw the Mesiras HaStar is not enough of a kel to be able to have all the dinim of a star. I'll call upon him, so that's Yeshmin Agenim Sheira. The Ram doesn't say lekan or lekan. Halachigim. Heitzi olav ksav yodeh shu chayv. There's no star with Eidim signed on it, and there's no star with Eidim that saw the Mesira, but rather there's a ksav yodeh of the Leva. Ve'en sham Eidim. Is aval pi shehu's the ksav yodeh bebezin. Bezin authenticated that this ksav yodeh is the ksav yad ha-Leva. Nevertheless, hareze kimil val pel l'chol davar. And even if there's Eidim signed in the star saying that this ksav yad is the ksav yad of the Leva, but on the other hand, they're not speaking about, they don't know anything about the halva. So the din is hareze kimil val pel l'chol davar. And therefore, v'imton shepara, if he tainas that he was para, is nish behes is v'nifter. He's believed with the tainas parite, he's believed against ksav yadi. That's the Rambam Paschas. That's the number one. So again, so over here, l'chura, right away we see that l'chura, if the yisod of the fact that you're not neman by paraiti, by a star, to say paraiti is because shtorche b'yadi my boy. So what about if by kasib iksav yodi, why don't we say shtorche b'yadi my boy? L'chura over there is also shtorche b'yadi my boy. Is be'emes there are rishenim that say that be'emes by ksav yodi you don't say shtorche b'yadi my boy. Whereas bishlema, when a person has a star that you come on from lekuches and yorshim, so he wouldn't pay it without taking the star. Mashenkin, if it's only kasib ksav yodi, if the lever just gave the ksaviyat to the malva, so then the lever won't be so nervous about paying without taking the star back. So in other words, the shtorche b'yadi my boy taka by ksav yodi is not as strong as a taina as shtorche b'yadi my boy by a star which has edim on it. That's some rishenim say that. But in a pashtus hadvarim, if we say, what the Ram said before, that the yisod of by a star is that the reason why he's not nema to say paraiti is because tzorich l'peir be'edim. So as it starts fakert, tzorich l'peir be'edim. The din of a star is tzorich l'peir be'edim, and therefore he's not nema to say paraiti. Since over here it didn't have a din of a star, so Neila never became a din of tzorich l'peir be'edim. Memela he is nema to say paraiti. That's l'chur of the pashtus hadvar. V'im toan shepora, v'itayna shepora, nishba heses v'nifta. The only gave it b'sav yad zeh, and it can't be gave b'sav yad zeh. Leiman ha'yeresh, leiman al-kuchas, and the pashtus because there's no shibud. There's no shibud on the karkoi, so he can't take not from the yeresh and not from the kuchas. And also l'chura, there's always an amonis to say, since there's an amonis to say paraiti, so there's a din of tenel yeresh, tenel lekech. So in other words, if there's an amonis, even if it's a star makuyim, there's an amonis to say paraiti. So in that would be another reason why the pashtus you wouldn't be able to mon, not from the lekuches and not from the yorshim. Halacha dalet. Kol milveh shebishtar goyve oisa min hayorshim v'geiv min halekuches k'meshi yizbar. A milveh b'shtar, if you bring along the star, you could mon siphon the yorshim, siphon the lekuches. However, milveh al peh goyve oisa min hayorshim. From the yorshim you could be goyve. The ain't a goyve oisa min halekuches, but from the lekuches you can't be goyve. Why? The fisha ain't lekol, since it has no coil. So as I say. The Rambam paskins knows like this. The Rambam holds that the shibudu derais. So Mele comes out be'emes whenever there's a chiyuv moment, there's a emes a chiyuv moment, there was a shibud chala under the chosim. So the chura every shibud should be able to be gave aside from the yoshim, aside from the lekuches, if we assume shibudu derais. But the ma'ase is by lekuches, since takonos al lekuches, the lekuches didn't know. They bought a karka, they didn't know. So how were they supposed to know? So it'll be a problem in buying karkois. You'll always be afraid to buy karkois because maybe someone will come along. So therefore they made a takana that a milva al peh, even though there is a shibud, but since the shibud is not known, you can't mon it from the lekuches. So the lekuches, which bought the karka, so they made a takana that you should mon it from them. Mashen Yorshim didn't buy the karka, they yashin the karka, and there is a shibud. So mele, you gave it. That's this din. That milva al peh gave him in hayorshim, ve'ina gave him lekuches. Why? The fish ein lekel is lefichach leyitrib. Therefore, you can't be toirif from the lekuches with a milva al peh. Aval milva shebishtar kel yeshle, and therefore v'halikeach hifsed alatzmi shalishol. He should have asked about it. Achi yivadash in the chosef shel zeh mishubodim milva shel olav shekol nichsi haleva tachas shibud hamalva menatera. All this. That's the. Knows if we would hold shibud alav deiraisa and the shibud becomes through the star. So a milva al peh also wouldn't be given in a yorshim because there's no shibud. The yorshim don't owe you the money. The yorshim only you're taking from inside the shibud. Masha'enkin, since shibud deraisa, so be'emes it is meshubed. And the reason why you don't take from the lekuches is misad the takana of the lekuches because they didn't know. Masha'enkin the yorshim, there's no reason to make a takana. They didn't buy anything, they didn't spend any money. The yarshin and the yarshin karka which has a shibud on it. Now hamecher sadeu be'edim, someone that sells a sadeu be'edim. And v'yotzis miyad de'alekech. And lepel, the din is a person sells karka, so he takes money for the karka. Now, if they take away this karka from the lekech, so really the money that he took from this lekech, he owes back to the lekech. It's his, achrayis toy safer, even if it wasn't written achrayis. So he owes money to the lekech, the money that he took. It's like a loan. Now the question is, his karkois are also meshubah to this loan. That's this din. Hamecher sadeu be'edim. Someone sold the sadeu be'edim. V'yotzis mitachas yad lekech, and lepel they took it away from the lekech. Is afal pi she'ein sham shtar b'yad lekech. The lekech doesn't have a star against the meicher, or to say that he bought the karka. Is nevertheless hareze chezer v'teirif michos mishabadim. He could go ahead and mon even from the Muchasim Shabadim, which means from the Lekuchas. So everyone knows that he sold karka. So everyone should have said that since he sold karka, maybe this karka will be. You have to verify whether this karka was really his. Because if it wasn't really his, so it comes out that they're going to take it away from the lekeach, and now the lekeach is going to come back and want him the money from the moicher, and now he could come back and go back to the people that are his lekuchas. In other words, he bought a field. Reuven sold a field to Shimon, and he sold it to him without Edom. And Lepel, so Shimon gave Reuven money. Now then Reuven went ahead and sold another field of his. He went and sold another field of his. So now, when they take away the field from Shimon, so now Shimon could go ahead and take away from the Lekuchas that bought the second field from Reuven. There was never a star between Reuven and Shimon. There was never established between Reuven and Shimon. So we say even without a star, it has a kel, and therefore they could go and mon from the Lekuchas. That's this din. Now we said before that halva balpeh could be geiva from Yorshim. But the Maisa is there's two dinim over here. There's two, like we discussed before. There's one issue whether there's a shibud on the karka. So once we establish that shibud diraisa, there's a shibud on the karka. There's no takonas alakuchas by Yorshim, so you got yashim. But on the other hand, there's another issue. The issue is maybe the father, the person that this person yashim from paid. But since we're dealing with a milval peh, so a milval peh, he has an amonis l'taina paraiti. So l'chur, if he has an amonis l'taina paraiti, so l'chur tanin l'yasmi, so we should be taina for the yasmi. Maybe he was paraiti. So that's what the Rambam says. This din that a milval peh gave him an ayorshim is only b'chiyai gavna that there's no taina paraiti. Ein alva shal peh nigbis min ayorshim. Ela be'echad mishleishet dvarim elu. From one of these three things, either k'shachayev meideba, the person that the malva was made on this alva, v'tziva b'cholyei, and while he was lying on his deathbed, sheyesh lo kleini olav chevadayin. That's one case where you don't tie a paraiti. Oy shohisa alva lizman, there was a zman on the alva, v'lei higia zman lepora, and v'chazoki sheinodim pirei b'tech zmani. So mitzad the chazoki nodim pirei b'tech zmani, we can assume that he didn't pay up, so we're not going to tie for the yorshim that maybe the father paid up because chazoki nodim pirei b'tech zmani, and there was a zman on this alva. Oy, and the Chagav, the Rambam is medayik over that there was a zman on the alva. We learned before already also, it's negay this din, that b'chlal we have a klal stam alva shleishim yem. Stam alva shleishim yem. So when a person lends someone money and he doesn't really make up a time, so the din is stam alva shleishim yem. The question is, do we say on the din of stam alva shleishim yem also, stam alva shleishim yem means that the malva can mon from the leva before 30 days that he owes him the money. But on the other hand, is there a din of einodem perei tech zmani tech shleishim yem? So from the Rambam is meduik that there's no such a din of einodem perei tech zmani. In other words, this whole din of einodem perei tech zmani means that there was a halva lizman, it was clearly lizman, and lepel he was mes tech hazman. Masha'enkin if it was halva stam, and that halva stam was, and lepel was still tech shleishim yem, we're not going to say the rule of einodem perei tech zmani. Maybe we will be tanin al yash. I'll call upon. It's also negay to the person himself. A person tainus paraiti. So normally we say chazaka not paraiti zmanik. Mashenker over here we say that there's no chazaka on this din of stam alvo shleishim yem. So nachamos. So we have two cases. One case is that the person was made the becholya that he still owes the money. Another case was he was mes teich zmanik. And a third case is eishen nidu achi yitein umeis minidiv. They were menadim b'chayav that he should pay the chayav, and lepel he died while he was in nidav. Is kol elu, so all of these cases is goyven min hayerish b'lei shvur. Over here you could mon from the yerish b'lei shvur if there's a milval peh, and it's established that it was a milval peh, and there's no real time of paraiti, so you could be goyven min hayerish b'lei shvur. Abel bo edim shoy avim chayav l'zem mona ebefonenu hulvo. Edim say we know for a fact that he owed him money. Is Eina gave him hayerish shlum. You can't mon from the yerish. Why? Because shema pari. And there's a possibility that he was pereh and he's not what to say paraiti. Is also in the gave by klum commission b'yarnu. And as he was why again? So the reason why by heitzik savyadi he's not gave is not because there's no shibut, because lepel the Rambam holds that even on milval peh there is a shibut on karka. But over here there's always a question. Maybe he paid. And he would have been never to say paraiti, like we said before, that Ksav Yodei, you're never to say paraiti. So since he's never to say paraiti, so it's also Tanin Yoshim. Halacha Zayin. Now, a loiva that has metaltalin, he also has karka, so he doesn't have the loiva doesn't have the right to go ahead and say, I'll pay you with the karka. The loiva is mechuyev to pay with metaltalin. That's why this comes out here from the halacha. A loiva is mechuyev to pay with metaltalin, he can't pay with karka. Now, if you have a loiva that doesn't have any metaltalin, so then you go to karka. The loiva is not mechuyev to go ahead and sell the karka and make it moist in order to be able to pay the malva. The malva, the bezin comes and takes away from the loiva the karka of the demei achev. Again, if the loiva has metaltalin, so the loiva is mechuyev to pay with metaltalin, and he can't pay with karka. Masha'ein kain, if he doesn't have metaltalin, so he's not mechuyev to go ahead and make the karka into moist. He could go ahead and pay with the karka itself. Now, what happens if you have a matzav where the loiva be'emes has metaltalin? It's just that he took those metaltalin and he was toile ba'akum, which means he gave it to a goy, and now the goy has possession of it, and therefore you can't really. Bezdin is not in the position to be able to take it out of the goy. So Mele comes out. Be'emes the loiva should be giving metaltalin, and lepel, since he was a toile meisa ba'akum, so he doesn't have metaltalin. Then Bezdin forces the loiva to go ahead and sell the karka and produce money. That's this din. Allah chazayin. Loiva she'ein le metaltalin, aber v'yesh le karka. Lepel is coming along. He says he has no metaltalin, but he has karka. Is im neidel lebezdin shetola me'isa b'yad acherim, that he gave the money to other people, and the mele lepel you can't get it from them, or you can't prove it. But lepel bezdin knows that he was tela me'isa b'yad acherim. So then, as koifen oisei, you force the loiva limker v'litnu balchev to go ahead and bring money to the balchev. However, they're not really aware that he was tela me'isa, so it's possible that's taka the truth, that he only has karka and doesn't have metaltalin. Is first of all machrim mishiyadli metaltalin, a mishiyeshli metaltalin v'liyavim. You make a cherem on someone that lepel knows that he has metaltalin, or he himself that he has metaltalin, he doesn't bring it. V'acharkach yerdin lebein l'sheben chasav, and then Bezin goes ahead and takes taka the karka, or magben l'balchevik meshizbar, so that you don't force the leva in such a case when we don't really have a yisod that the leva really has metaltalin. We don't force the leva to go ahead and sell the karka and make it into moist, but rather you go ahead and you take the karka as is. Now, b'medvar mamurim bizman shenivroim na'leva atzmi. When you take them from the leva, so then you go ahead and take you take from the metaltalin. You take from the metaltalin, and lepel, there's no metaltalin, you take from the karka. Avalaboli parim and ayerish. Someone that's coming to be liparim and ayerish, ben kadl ben gadl, is lay parim and metaltalin. From the metaltalin of the yerish, you have no right to take. Afilu hayim of kadim a milvei tzelacherim. So if the same are mamish muhzik in the metaltalin, so metaltal the asmil balchele mishtabdi. So since they became muhzik in the metaltalin, so it's not meshubit. So he's saying even if they were mufkadim and milvu biyad acherim, so there would be a svara to say that it's not really mufkid biyad metaltalin, biyad yisem. Nevertheless, metaltalin ein atach shibud balchei menatera. There's no shibud on the metaltalin. There's no chamal. When a yerish yarshins, so he yarshins karka, but the karka has a shibud to the balchev. So therefore the balchev has a right to go and take away from this karka. Masha'enken metaltalin are never under the shibud. So therefore, when the metaltalin come to the yisemim, the metaltalin come to the yisemim. So they own the karka because they're the yarshim, and on the other end there's no shibud. So mele you can't take it from the yarshim. That's medina de gemara. We'll learn later that the ga'enim were misakin that you should be able to be given metaltalin. Is nachamal. Normally, when you go to a regular person, to a regular levi, you take from metaltalin. And if he doesn't have metaltalin, then you go to karka, and then you also want to make sure that he doesn't have metaltalin. You're machrimim al misha yideh sheyesh le metaltalin. If you really know that he has metaltalin, but he was a teilem eisa benachri, so then the din is that you force the lever to take the karka and make it into money. To make it into money. Now, Vaistis also in Nachrein is a discussion. In other words, if he has money and he has also metaltalin, if Vaistis, it doesn't say that he has mechuyev dafka to pay with money and not with metaltalin. He has to pay with metaltalin and not with karka. But does he have to pay with money and not with metaltalin? That doesn't say in Rambam. In Shulchan Aruch it's brought down that you have to pay with money. If you have metaltalin, you have money, you have to pay with money. Because you don't have a choice to pay with metaltalin. You don't have a choice to pay with metaltalin. But in Rambam it doesn't say this. Halacha ches. Now, even though we're saying that the Malveh doesn't really have a koyach to mon from the Yisemim, the metaltalin, however, mitzvah la Yisemim lefreya chev avim minan metaltalin sheniach. It's a mitzvah on the Yisemim lefreya chev avim minan metaltalin sheniach. It's a mitzvah of him to do it, but you're not kayfim to do it. And lepel them tafas balchev michayim. If the balchev was tefis, this metaltalin, while the leva was still alive, so then he's tafas. If he was gave him mehem, then he could be gave from them. Now toan shemichayim tefastin. Because right now the malveh is a muhzik on these metaltalin. Now we know this was metaltalin that belonged to the leva, and now the leva died, and the malveh is a muhzik on this metaltalin, and he's tining michayim tefasti. That I had already a tfis on it michayim. Vayerish tan no shachar misatafas. And he had no right to be tefes because lepel metaltal the asman am meshubit. So the din is since lepel the malv is a muzik is ala yerish lahavi raya. The yerish has to bring a raya. Ey yishava hamalv shekach v'kach hu chayev lei v'yochalitin ad kedei dmeim v'kel mishvuase shemechayim tafas. That's the when a person is muzik on something, and he could always taina. He has a schus taina that it's his. So therefore, and he wants to mon from these metaltalin. Because when a person, just like we said, when a personal mashal is a teifus on something, and he could taina that it's his melachatchila, but he's being moided, it's not really his, it's a mashkin. So the din is that he's nishba v'netel from the mashkin. How much could he take? He takes at kedei demeim, how much the mashkin is worth. In other words, he could taina that someone owes him according to the amount of that it's worth. So over here also, the malva is a mugzik now in the metaltal. He's tiny that he was toughest mechayim, so maybe he has a right to collect from these metaltalin. And lepel, so he has to swear he's a nishba v'netel since he's a mugzik. So therefore he has a schus hanamonis, but only a schus hanamonis with a shvua. Now hoya dvarim shetots. So in other words, the point is that since he's a toughest, he's the mugzik, and if he's the mugzik, so he has a schus to taina ad kedei demeim. Now hoya dvarim shetofa shtoris. What he grabbed was shtaris. In other words, Reuven owes Shimon money. So Shimon went ahead and grabbed, Reuven died. So now Shimon has now in his possession shtaris of Malveh that people owed Reuven. Shtaris of Malveh that people owed Reuven. And the shaila is, were those shtaris grabbed Michayim? And therefore, since he was tefes Michayim, so mainly he's considered a muhzik in the shtaris, or no? So, he was tefes at lachar misa and metaltal the asm b'chev l'mishtabdi. So, Mamela, since there's shtaris that people owe them money, so that's going together metaltal the asmi. That's the issue over here. So we say that when a person is tefes taka metaltal, so you can say I have a tefisa on this metaltal, it's my possession. But when a person has a shtar, what does it say in the shtar? In the shtar it says that this other person owes the leva money. He owes the person that to Reuven is the malva and Shimon is the leva. But the shtar says that the leva in this story was a malva in a different story. He was a malva, and maybe he has a shtar that person owes him money. When you have a tfis on that shtar, you don't have a tfis on the chayv. It's not you have a tfis on it. You have a tfis on the shtar. The shtar is only a riot. That's what he's saying. Hoya dvarim shetofa shtaris v'toan, and the malva was taina sheimashkin biyodi al chayve and v'shemechayim tofas. Is over here is ala malva lahavi raya shemechayim tofas. He has to prove that he was mechayim tofas. Vim lehevi raya is yazil yorshim mipnei she'enei tein liknes gufan el raya shebam. Whereas since he's only interested in the raya of the shtar, so the raya of the shtar, he can't be teifus in the raya of the shtar. The shtar is talking about the chiv that they have towards the leva, that the chiv that they have towards the leva. The malva is grabbing this shtar, so he doesn't really have a tfisa in that money that they owe to the leva. Halacha tes. Now, so we're saying b'chlal that you could be gover from the karka of the Yisemim, but you can't be gover from the metaltal of the Yisemim. Halacha tes. Yisemim shegovu karka b'cheiv shehoya lavim etzel acherim. So the din is from the Yisemim you can only take from their karka, not from the metaltal. What about the karka that they didn't get from their father? In other words, when their father died, he had this karka in the yashin. That karka for sure you could be gover from. Now the chiddush over here is that if they went ahead and they were goyva karka for money that people owed their father. So lepel, the father had a shibud on the karka, but lepel, the karka wasn't yet b'rshus aviyam. And now they went ahead and were goiva from that karka. So the din is that since right now they have karka, and the reason why they have this karka is because it was behaved that their father had. Their father, someone owed their father money, so it's keilu they yarshin this karka, and now when the person that their father owed money to could come ahead and take that karka away from the Yisayim. That's this din. Yisayim shegavu karka b'chev shehoy lavim. It's lacherim. They were given the karka for a chev that their father was owed. So now yesh l'balchev shelavim, the balchev shelavim, the balchev that their father owes to, could come, could go ahead and take that karka which they took from someone else that owed their father money. Shari karka zu shelavim, and this karka has a din as the karka of their father, and therefore the shibud of their father's balchev, who knows the person that their father owes money to, is also chal on this karka, which this karka was doch meshubit to their father, and now they picked it up, they got it. Halacha Yud. Reuven shemachar soda l'Shimon b'achrayis. V'zokav Shimon d'mei hasoda olav Malveh V'Loveh umes Reuven. So again, Reuven sold the field to Shimon, and he said if something happens with the field, Reuven is responsible for that field. Something happens to the field, they take away the field from Shimon, Reuven is responsible for that field. That's one part of the story. Now Lepeil, Shimon didn't have money to pay for the field, so Shimon was Zokov Malveh V'Loveh. He accepted upon himself a loan. Let's see, he wrote a star, an IOU that Shimon wrote to Reuven that I owe you money. In other words, without mentioning the field, it's not like the field. In other words, Shimon now has the field belongs completely to Shimon, but on the other end, Shimon owes Reuven money. So again, Reuven is achroi. If Shimon loses the field, Reuven will be achroi. And on the other end, there's another din that Shimon owes Reuven money because Lepeil Shimon never paid for the field. And then who makes Reuven died. Now, Ubo Balchev Shel Reuven, Litref Mishimon Hasoda. The Balchev Shel Reuven wants to now take away the field from Shimon. Upias is Shimon b'mois. So now Shimon had money. Shimon really owed money to Reuven. He went ahead and was Mephias this Balchev with mois. And Ba'alachle. And the Balchev left. So L'chura, the Balchev, there would be a svara to think that Shimon doch owes Reuven money. He owes money for the sada. Now this Balchev wants to take away the sada. So Shimon will tell him, listen, this money that I owe to Reuven, that's the money that I gave to this Balchev. There's a Balchev of Reuven that wants to take away the field that I bought from Reuven. So instead of taking away this field, I gave him the money that I owe Reuven. But on the other hand, the money is doch metaltlan. Metaltl the Yasim Balchev le Mishtabdi. So l'churi we could separate it, say like this. Shimon owed Reuven money because he was Zokvala b'Milva. Now he owes the Yisayim money. Now that money that he owes to the Yisayim, the Balchev of Reuven has no rights to. So Shimon can say, listen, that I said to Balchev the Reuven, why are you taking away my field? Take away the money that I owe because of the field, and that money is also Reuven's. And from that money you'll get your chev. So you say no. That money is not meshubit to the Balchev. So the Balchev has no right to access that money mitzad the din hashibut. That's the first din. Well, let's read the story again. Reuven shemachar sadol l'Shimon b'achrayis. Reuven sold the field to Shimon b'achrayis. So in case Shimon loses the field, Reuven is achroi. Now v'zokav Shimon d'mei hasod olav b'Malveh l'Reuven. Shimon didn't have money to pay for the field, so he wrote a Malveh, star Malveh l'Reuven. Now umes Reuven died. Now Bo Balchev Shel Reuven, the Balchev Shel Reuven comes, litrif mishimon hasoda, to take away from Shimon the soda. Now Upir says Shimon b'mois, so Shimon went ahead, instead of letting him take the field, he gave him the money. V'halachle, and that Balchev left. Now l'chura, the seichel would be again that since Shimon owes Reuven money, and now there's a Balchev of Reuven that's coming to collect, so Shimon is saying, don't take from my field, take from the money that I owe Reuven for this field, and Mamela, that's how you'll get paid. That's how you'll get paid. So l'chura, there's no din teir over here. So we say no. Hadin nason sheyoveu yershe Reuven v'yitbu Shimon b'Malveh shezakav olav. They could come along and say, listen, you owed our father money. Mamela, we want that money. He's tiny. I gave that money to your father's Balchev. The answer is, so that tiny. What do you give the money to the father's Balchev? That money, which is metalton, there was no chayv on it. There was no shibur on that chayv. So Mamela, you can't taina that you gave that money that you owed our father to the Balchev. That the Balchev has no right to that money. You owe the father the money, and that money belongs to us. And Mela, if you would have given us that money, the Balchev wouldn't have been able to take us away this money. So the Mela, so the fact that you gave away the money to them, to this Balchev, has nothing to do with us. We want the money from you. You owe the money to our father. So the Rambam says that's not the din. The din is that he can't taina that the money that I owed you, that's what I give to the Balchev. Because you have no right to take that money. That money which you owed us is metaltalin. The money that you owed us is metaltalin, is not meshubah to the Balchev. So Mele, what's the Eitzel Lefichach? That's what they're saying. They're saying, Adin Neisen She'aveu Yer She'ruvin V'yidbu Shimon B'milveh She'zakav Alav. L'chura Shimon is going to tie that milveh I gave away to the Balchev. The answer is no, Shara. It isn't Meshubah to the Balchev She'ruvin. That money is not Meshubah to the Balchev She'ruvin. Is Lefichach, therefore, M'hoya Shimon Pikech. If Shimon was Pikech, and he wants to get back his money, Lepel is going to end up with a loss. Because Lepel, he's going to end up not having, he paid for this, he's going to have to end up paying twice, Kilo. He paid the Balchev, and now he's going to have to pay the Yorshim. So Imhoye Shimon Pikech is Neisla Makarka Shalokach Meruvin B'milveh Shezakav Alatzmei. He'll say like this: I owe your father money. I don't have any money. Here's the karka, or even if he does have money. The Mefarshim explained that in this case, they instituted that even if he has money, he could do this. So he's saying, I'm paying the choiv that I have to the father of the Yorshim, with karka. So now there has a din of Yorshim, which will go with karka b'cheves aviyim. And Lepel, your father owes me money because Lepel, I lost out on this karka. Notice, because of the Balchev came and took away from me the money, and because he was going to take the karka. So basically, the achrayus of your father is towards me. So Mele comes out that your father owes me money because Lepel, I ended up losing the money because of him. And Mele, now I'm going ahead and taking that money from the karka which you have. This halacha is based on the previous halacha. Halacha Yud is based on halacha Tes. Once we establish that you say Mishagov b'karka chev b'karka saviyim, that karka is meshubed also to other balcheves. So Mele comes out lefichach hoye shimon pikech neislam karka shalakach meruvin b'milvah shezakav alatzmei. He pays the yorshim. He says, "Taka, I owe your father a milvah, so I'll pay it. How will I pay it? I'll pay it with this karka." And now, once you have karka, which you just collected from me for the chayv of aviyim, is a tever esim. Now I could go back to you and I say, listen, your father owes me money. Why does he owe me money? Because Lepel, because of him, I had to give away the money of, notice, notice, on one hand, I gave away back the karka, I paid the milva. And on the other hand, I lost the money that I paid in order to take away from the Balchev. So therefore, the teir face mem pnei amoish naslam Balchev sheruvin kedei shalitter face memenu sher bachrayis lochem meruvin. So when a person goes ahead and buys a karka bachrayis, and then the Balchev wants to come along and take away the karka, and he goes ahead and pays for this karka not to be taken away, so that money he could mon from the seller. Because in normal cases, you mon the money because you already paid the seller, and now you're paying extra money. In this case, you really never paid the seller. But so at that point in time, l'chura, you didn't owe him anything. He didn't owe you anything. But Lepel, now you did end up paying the seller because you gave the same amount of money for this milva, and Lepel, you're paying the same with the karka. So you paid the seller, and Lepel. And now Lepel, you also lost money. So the nekudas advarim is that on one hand he owes the father money, but on the other hand the father owes him money. How is he going to collect the money that the father owes him? By giving the Yisayim the karka, he's able to collect the money that the father owes him. You have to understand, because l'chura, even without this story, l'chura, the father owes him money and he owes the father money. So mele l'chura, they should cancel each other out. We're saying no. The din is that he has to give the Yisayim the karka. He gives the Yisayim the karka. So mele comes out that he could mon from the Yisayim because there was karka shegova b'cheves aviyam, and Lepel, their father owes him money because Lepel, he lost the money. Halacha Yudalef. Now, this is all medina di Gemara that you don't mon from a taltal. Partiknu geinim achreinim kulam sheyu balchev gave him metaltal min hayorshim. V'chein donin Yisrael b'chol bezn shveilu, that everyone is also goyim metaltel. Ab b'mayrev hoyekesem b'shtori cheves sheyesh lo ligbeis min hakarka min hametaltel ben b'chayev ben rachar meisei. There was in Mayrev they would institute that in the star they should write that there's a shibur on the metaltelin. V'nimtze gave out naizeh yesem in hatakona. No, this was a takonas ageinim. Takonas ageinim, the Rambam says, is not such a strong takona. Masha'enken, if they put it into the star, so then it becomes a very strong thing. Usiyog God losu b'dover. Shem aliyeda haloveh b'takona zu. The Levi maybe never knew about the takona. V'nimtzu momin yesem yetze shlei bedin. Because l'chura, I mean, you're taking the metalton from the Yorshim, shlei bedin. She'ein b'ker b'takonas achreinim l'chai b'yesem. Whereas the Ge'enim instituted, but l'pil, as a result of that, you're taking away money from Yesem. But Masha'enkin, if l'chatchila, when the Yerush, when the Levi was mischayiv himself in the star, he wrote that the star should be that also from metalton ben b'chaim ben lachar misa. So it comes out that in the star there was meshubit, and therefore that gives the strength more than takonos again.